Senator Rick Santorum won a huge victory in Tennessee last night, and it's his stance on issues like higher education that still has the nation buzzing. Despite criticism for his take on issues like higher education, Rick Santorum expects the victories to keep pouring in, especially with support from social conservatives like those in Tennessee. The state of Tennessee has maintained low tuition increases for higher education over the last few years. Tennessee State Governor Bill Haslam intends to keep it that way. Haslam says Tennessee citizens should receive the best services for the lowest price. Outside the state's capital, this is Robert Counts reporting for UT Today. Botanists say that the dogwood trees have not necessarily bloomed early this year. In fact, they've bloomed right when they're supposed to. Rice conditions are perfect. However, they are concerned that if another cold front moved through the Knoxville area, that the dogwood trees would not be able to make it. The solution to UT's housing problem lies right here in this gravel parking lot behind the Black Cultural Center, where construction of a building that will hold over 700 occupants for UT housing is about to begin. As Pat Summitt is stepping down as the head coach of Lady Vols basketball team, the reins are being handed over to longtime assistant Holly Warlick. Warlick has been within the Tennessee program for 31 years and is ready to take on her new role. Warlick takes over for a coach that garnered over 1,000 wins, 16 SEC championships, and 8 national titles. Whether she's up to the task or not, only time can tell. Reporting for UT Today, I'm Robert Counts. As Pat Summitt is stepping down as the head coach of the Lady Vols basketball team, the reins are being handed over to longtime assistant Holly Warlick. Warlick has been within the Tennessee program for 31 years and is ready to take on her new role. The legendary Pat Summitt had one last plea as head coach of the University of Tennessee Lady Vols basketball team, and this request was made to the fans.
And I need you right now, I want you to listen to this, to step up more than ever to support our new head coach, Holly Warlick. To turn over my whistle.
Pat Summitt literally and figuratively handed over her whistle to Holly Warlick Thursday afternoon at Thompson-Boling Arena. For Warlick, it was finally a moment in what had been a stressful year to be happy.
My biggest concern with Pat is, are you okay? And she said, I'm okay, you need to be happy. And I said, Pat, really, I just want to make sure you're okay. And she pulled the stare out of me and she said, you need to be happy and I'm not going anywhere. So I'm happy today.
Warlick is not a new name to the state of Tennessee. She was a standout point guard at Bearden High School, started on 4 Tennessee teams, and was the first basketball player at Tennessee to have her jersey retired at the end of her career.
I get to coach at a school that has always been in my blood, and this is my home. So it's only taken me 27 years to get to this point, and I just really didn't want to rush it. So I told Pat to take all the time she needed.
Warlick will take over a team that returned 6 members of last year's Elite 8 squad, and she assured future players not much will change for young women who come to play at Tennessee.
As everyone said, I've seen her stare, and she has blown this whistle quite a bit, and hopefully that's one tradition I can carry on and push these young ladies and make sure I use this whistle to the best of my ability.
Warlick takes over for a coach that garnered over 1,000 wins, 16 SEC championships, and 8 national titles. Whether she's up to the task or not, only time can tell. Reporting for UT Today, I'm Robert Counts. The state of Tennessee has maintained low tuition increases for higher education over the last few years. Tennessee State Governor Bill Haslam intends to keep it that way. Tennessee State senators and school officials gathered to hear Haslam's plan for higher education in the coming year, and he certainly did not disappoint the public's expectations.
In addition, we are increasing the amount of money available in need-based scholarships. We simply have to keep tuition increases in Tennessee to a minimum so that we can encourage more access for more students.
Keeping tuition increases to a minimum is a huge part of the state's plan for increasing the amount of Tennesseans who have a degree and, in turn, improving the condition of the state.
When 21% of our population has a degree, compared to a national average of 30%, and over half of the new jobs being created over the next decade will require degrees, encouraging more Tennesseans to aspire to higher education is one of our key roles as leaders of the state.
While Haslam spoke of keeping tuition to a minimum, the facts are students can still expect an increase in tuition, and that means more money coming out of their pockets. Over the past 5 years, Tennessee has seen the total cost of tuition fees increase over $1,700. However, University of Tennessee President Dr. Joe DiPietro was adamant that tuition increases had been necessary and reasonable.
we need to be very, very careful about how we go about raising tuition, but we need to keep our quality up. We need to retain our people. And the other thing you need to realize is that the cost of our tuition at Chattanooga, Martin, or Knoxville is very reasonable in comparison to their peers as well as the national averages.
The state of Tennessee remains the 18th cheapest tuition nationally and about $1,500 below the national average for an academic year's tuition. And that appears pretty affordable to Dr. DiPietro.
So this is a really high-quality program at Knoxville at a real affordable price.
Haslam says Tennessee citizens should receive the best services for the lowest price. Outside the state's capital, this is Robert Counts reporting for UT Today.
One issue that constantly surrounds the scholastic and business worlds is how women are treated in those settings. Statistics would show not too poorly. 73% of 68 million women in the workforce have white-collar jobs, so equality in the workplace is not exactly the issue. The problem lies in the treatment of women within that setting. Dr. Donna Sherwood is a women's studies graduate professor and has been teaching at the University of Tennessee for 45 years, and she sees little difference in this issue between when she started teaching and now.
I applied for a job as an English instructor in 1967, and during the interview, the head of the department told me that I would have to understand that the man who had been interviewed just before me had a family to support and would have to be paid more money. At the time, I didn't even resist. I thought I did understand that. It didn't dawn on me till years later that I had a husband to support at the time, but nobody even thought about that.
Dr. Sherwood says part of the problem is that women continually get stereotyped as having very particular traits within the workplace.
Stereotypes are clear, but I think the actual behaviors are not clear. They get very muddied, and things that would normally be considered feminine, I'm very good at. I can be very cooperative, and I can be sweet even when I have to, but I'm not really. So what you see is not always what you get.
On campus, some of the university's most prominent organizations break the mold of having men as their leaders. The Central Programming Council, the Volunteer Channel, and the Student Alumni Associates all have female presidents this year. But whether the leader is a man or woman doesn't really affect SAA President Becca Cox.
Upset me because I myself sometimes tend to trust the male leadership a little bit more, and I don't think that that's rational on my part at all. But I think that our society is slowly moving away from that. But I think it is a process, and I think it's a learning process, and people are learning to trust women, and I do think we'll see a change, especially as our generation enters the work field and workforce.
Even the Student Government Association president, Adam Roddy, finds little to no inequality with women in leadership roles.
Or anything like that. I feel like you can look at any aspect, whether it's a Student Services Committee, our senators, or really any part of SJ, and you're not going to be able to see immediate polarization one way or another. I mean, granted, there might be one committee or one aspect of SJ that might have one, like more of a certain gender simply by happenstance, but by no means is it by design.
Reporting for UT Today, this is Robert Counts.